I have the clapperboard, the other side of the room. Oh, thank you. There we go. All right. You know, applause. Everybody applaud. There we go. This is for sound. For sound. That's great.
Not for your.
There we go. Excellent. That was great. That was great, guys. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Don't do that.
Hubris shall be my downfall. I do apologise. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Welcome to Riveracts Networking, and please welcome to the stage Ross and John of Twisted.
Yay!
So,
almost enthusiastic.
So I've known these gentlemen for a little while now, and I'm very excited that I can have them here and talk to them about, well, what they do and the awesome stuff that they do, if I'm entirely honest. But first of all, let's get some introductions so that you guys know exactly who they are. Let's begin with your origin story, up to the point just before you guys started working togetgether properly.
Excellent. It's good. It's almost like that's what we planned. It's great.
I hope so. I did send you the questions.
So I started. Well, I left school. I left school in Cornwall, where I grew up. There was not really any work around, so I ended up in this wonderful town of Weston. I've tried to leave 3 times, and I end up back every time. So it says something about the place.
It's only because you're 14.
No, maybe. I kind of. And I didn't have the typical career in the sense that I kind of dropped around different industries, different job roles, but it all kind of focused around customer service, sales, a couple of sales manager roles, business development, and a little bit, which all then incorporates marketing. And it was about 6, it came to a head really about 6 years ago, and I thought actually I need to kind of do the things that I enjoy. Of which web design was a key hobby for one, but also it is that element of helping grow a business, and I've always felt that I was quite good at that, but just never had a go at doing it myself. I have more than one story was where I was working in an independent phone shop, tripled their turnover in like 6 months of working there by changing processes, by looking at marketing, by looking at things they were doing wrong, analysing, improving sales tactics and everything. I thought, actually, I can do this for businesses. And jumping a little bit, like I say, with the web design's always been an interest, always something I've been kind of good at from a hobby point of view, and thought, let's try and make something from it. The opportunity came up, and thought, well, we can actually make something good out of this. And kind of expanded that by linking with John, which I'll let him carry on now.
There we go. So let's find out where John came from.
Yeah, well, I'm one of very few people, I guess, who came out of school knowing exactly the industry I wanted to be in. I always wanted to be a designer. My uncle was a very talented artist and worked in design agencies, and I got the bug at a very early age. And I was at school before computers were really there. I wanted to do graphics, was told I couldn't. Went to college, couldn't do graphics. Only thing I do was fine art. And ended up getting a job as an apprentice in a printers as a graphic designer. And I haven't really changed. I've done a couple of odd jobs in between, but I've been in the industry now since I was 16. So yes, over 30 years now.
5 years. It's only 30 years.
Yeah. Sadly, not 5. But yeah, so I've been in the background of print production in many different industries, so I understand how things are manufactured as well as just making it look pretty before it goes to print. So for advising clients, I can take them all the way through from the initial design and understanding how it's going to be on their vehicles and on their signage and how it. So I've got a lot more knowledge than what a lot of designers have at the start. Yeah, so, and then 6 years ago, we sort of like sat down and had a chat.
Around the pool table.
Around the pool table. We've known each other probably 6 years, 10 years.
Almost
before
20, well, before that, oh God.
Yeah, long time.
Before that was 2014, that photo, so we'd probably known each other about 6-8 years then, and of course it was 2020, 2020 we talked about doing something together.
Straight out of COVID, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was COVID was a downfall of a business I already had, and it was either get out of COVID and start again from scratch and build up customers from home, or with after my discussion with Ross was actually get hired and have a salary, which was something I hadn't had for quite a long time. So I thought I liked this idea.
kind of salary thing, you know, we've got quite a few like freelancers and entrepreneurs and everything in here. So
Yeah.
the word salary is kind of like, interesting.
Yeah. No, the best one goes on is holiday pay.
Holly.
Hang on. When did I agree to give you one?
Anybody in the audience?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Well, I want to go back to a little bit what you were doing before, because you know you moved on to like web development, and now we're calling you the Marketing Megaphone, right?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Let's go back again through the fact that you worked in a phone shop. You also worked in bars. You also worked for, was it a furniture shop or something?
Yeah,
as well?
I was a salesman for
retail,
Harvey's Furniture for a long time, for a while up in Bristol. One of their flagship stores, as it was, just launched, and I get thrown into the deep end against the third best salesman in the company. So it was very much a shark tank. I had to kind of adapt very quickly and adjust my own communication style from that.
So what did you come from before that?
From before Harvey's, that was the phone shop where I stopped for a bit and went back into sales. Before that was mobile phones. After Harvey's was estate agency. I was doing business development for a private flying school. I was operationally running two removal firms.
I see these guys quite regularly, and we talk quite a lot. And this is new even to me at this point.
I try not to talk about it.
That's insane. You have actually had quite a a lot of different industries.
Yeah.
How do you think that has helped you, like, today?
Massively, because it's when you're kind of working for me, I was working in a development role, basically trying to push businesses forward, never really kind of having the authority to say, actually, no, this is what we need to do. And when I did get that, which was the phone shop, I saw results.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, well, I know I can do this, so if I can do it for me, then I can do it for other people. And I've kind of been employed by a lot of companies to improve their own sales or their own processes. And I said, well, actually, I can do this for small business, so I can do this as a marketing executive or as a marketing consultant. So it was kind of an opportunity to move that in that direction properly. But yeah, I've sold 50 quid mobile phones, but I've also sold £250,000 houses.
So that's okay. So there we go. So this is the man to talk to if you want to sell a £50 phone or £250,000 house. I'm sure there's something in between those two things. From a more like creative side, it's obviously I'm very kind of like practicality driven on that one, but the more creative side, I know that you do a lot of illustrations and stuff as well. I think you've done. I saw you doing a children's book recently or something.
I'm working on a children's book.
You're working on a children's book, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
So on top of like all the branding, which we'll get onto in a minute for businesses, you also do things like children's.
Well, illustrations is a hobby as much as anything. So, as I alluded at the start, that fine art was how we were getting into the industry. I loved art, but it's when I first started in the industry was here's a computer. I didn't have a clue what one of those was when I started, so I had to learn quickly and change direction. But illustrations and drawings has always been a fundamental thing that I enjoyed doing. And yes, now I'm doing it. The illustrations for I've got 10 children's books to illustrate, all for charity.
Oh, wow.
So they are going to be sold, all to raise money for charity.
Oh, fantastic. Can you talk very quickly about that?
It's in conjunction with a Rotary Club, Western Bay Rotary, who we are members of as a business. So, and they do business, raise money for charities all the time. And for one of the, in fact, the president of the club at the moment has written many children's stories that we want to get published, and we want to do it to raise money as opposed to just doing it for the sheer hell of it. So yeah, that's my challenge at the moment, and we've come up with a Rotary Bear, and I've got a name, draw him doing lots and lots of different things to help communities.
So yeah, watch this space and do follow us and do follow Twitter so you can keep on top of that, because that's absolutely fantastic. So give it, I don't know if you have like a time frame roughly on that.
No, we did, but it's been blown out.
Okay, no worries.
If the president gets away,
you just
6
have to
months
follow
ago.
forever in that case,
Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
you? So
It'll get
to
out.
see when all that comes out, because that'd be very cool. I could talk about a lot of that stuff, like a lot more, but we've unfortunately got a little bit of a time crunch on this. So let's now, we know where each of you come from, and it sounds like such wildly different worlds. How the hell did you come together?
From obviously, the initial meeting was he just destroyed me on a pool table, but that's different. When it comes to the business side of it, I'd done a couple of months of trying trying to work on the web side of it, and I've never really been a designer. I think if I was starting now, I'd be one of those Canva people that would just have a go. And I've always like wanted to know more about it. And that's how I think we got talking. It's like, oh, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? And you're thinking, well, it's a good time for you to come in. And I thought, actually, there's a lot of web designers that are very good web designers, but get the aesthetics wrong.
Right.
And then there's a lot of really good graphic designers that don't get the technical side. And I thought there's an opportunity here, rather than just doing kind of technically good but average looking websites. I can actually do really good looking websites that are technically right if I bring a specialist on board. And it's always been very much a 50-50 for us. It is, we like to think of it as design meets development. We start with the UX, we start with the design process. John will get everything looking as nice as possible, and fortunately now he's had a few years of experience making it so I can actually make it look like it. And then, you know, between myself and Holly, we'll build it afterwards. So we're making sure that that combination is there.
It's the learning curve from a designer's background. Is I deal lots with print and flat objects, and they fixed objects, whereas websites are not fixed. Everything moves, and especially for to make them work on different devices, everything needs to be designed around that. So it was a bit of a learning curve to begin with for me, even to learn new softwares for one, because actually doing proper UX designs is softwares that I never used before. So learned new equipment and changed the way I was working. But it still goes back to the fundamentals. So. And they still are the same.
Well, of course, what that meant that we could do was extend into from just looking at originally web design, but from that into graphic design, into print work with your experience of print.
You used to advertise yourselves as web design and print. That was your main thing.
Yeah.
It was your three main thing when I first met you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, so they've all got like very, very strong visual aspects of that, and I want to talk about the branding side of things, because I know you focus really hard on branding. Like, so that is a major thing for you. You've got the functionality and the creativity kind of going on here. Not that you're not creative as well, but more aesthetic creativity, I suppose, is probably the better way to put it. Why is that visual element so important? Why can't we just have a website that just does what we need, and I'm Xander Wild videos, and it's just a picture of my face? What should I be doing?
Brand for me and for businesses is the hugest thing that people forget, and the biggest problem that people do is they get their logo designed, looks lovely, then they go to the printer and the printer goes, oh, I'll do it slightly different. There you go. Then they go to the sign writers, I can't match that, well, I'll do it like this. And by the end of it, you've got a business card that's a slightly different tinge, or a different font, or a different graphic. Your vehicle graphics is done completely different again. Your sign on the building's done differently, because and by the end of it, all of your marketing does not even resemble each other. And if you start pushing out your marketing, people can't even, they don't look like they're the same company. So people are lost in what they're doing. It's basically wasting your marketing. It's a complete waste of time if people find you and then can't match you in the other side of your industry. So if your marketing doesn't match, it's a big failure on the board.
That does tie back actually to one of our first fireside chats that we had in Riverfax Networking with Ben Mears, who's also a graphic designer. You were there, weren't you? You were there. And he did say that his actionable tip was, if you're going to have your branding done, if you've got a colour, make sure it's the same colour every single time. Don't just sort of like ballpark the green or anything like that. And that's why we have a Riverfax green, that's why we have a Riverfax Networking blue. It is a very specific colour. And that is crucial, because otherwise that's not branding. And that means that your marketing falls apart, doesn't it? Because suddenly you're not marketing, it's not recognisable, is it?
And it becomes costly in so many ways, because, I mean, we've worked with a company that we've done a rebrand for, say, 5 years ago, and it was a blue and red logo. For example, the logo's gone to a couple of different shades of blue. It's blue and black and white, simplified, nicer, a little bit more corporate looking. And then we see one of their regional guys walking around with with a jacket with the old logo on. So people don't know who you are now. So what you've done is completely destroyed the work of the brand to try and raise the quality, because you're still using an old design. And if you want to then get it right, you've already paid out for your branding, you've paid out for your uniform, you've paid out for your vans. you've now got to pay all of that again. So the cost of a good brand pack ends up being a lot more cost efficient and replacing your entire fleet of marketing out there. It's hard enough to get recognised as it is nowadays. So if you're talking 7 to 10 to 15 touch points, if all of your touch points look different, no one's going to know who you are.
That's a really good bit of advice. You know, we talk about how your marketing works so that people actually see you and recognise you and they can like interact with you in some way, shape or form. If it's not consistent, it's not going to have any effect because it has to be a consistent 10, 15 touch points, not a scatter shot of marketing at the end of the day. That's a really good point. So, let's talk a little bit more about branding working alongside marketing. You know, we've talked about that a little bit now, but if somebody is trying to put together their marketing, like they've got a marketing plan, how should they be incorporating branding into that? What should be their first step when it comes to putting their branding together to be able to make it a part of their marketing? I think I know what I meant there. Sorry, I don't know where I went with that. I think I read two questions at once.
It was a little confusing, but
It was a
I
little
tried.
confusing. Okay, so let me try that one again. So, what is the first thing that people need to sort out with their branding so that they can incorporate that into their marketing at large?
For me, it's knowledge. There's so many, and I've just done redrawing of logos because nobody's got the original vector graphic. They've got PNG, which hasn't got proper colours anymore. They don't know what the fonts are because it's being vectorized. I'm sorry, not vectorized, bitmapped, and they don't know what they're doing with it anymore. So keep the originals. One of the things that most commonly said in the industry, if you get a logo drawn properly, you'll get given a vector version and JPEGs and PNGs. The most common version of the vector you won't be able to open without proper software. Don't delete it. Most people do because they go, I can't use it. No, your signwriters, your printers, anybody in the business will ask for that file. If you've got rid of it, you need it. We've recently done about 5 redraws, just recently, of companies who have no longer got their vector and don't know the fonts, don't know where they are. So we've got to find the fonts, redraw the logos, and redo everything so they can then start using it again. Well, it's a costly process just to do that.
And from our point of view, the font, I'll just touch on the font one, despite you being the font one. You know, again, one of the companies I worked for before have done exactly what John said. They've got their tagline attached to their logo. The font is on 3 different buildings with 3 different fonts for the same tagline,
Right.
and no one knows what the original font was or what it's meant to be. Now, for us as a designer, we see a lot of printers. Mainly, I will say, and it's not to be detrimental to anyone in particular, a lot of designers that will say exactly what John said. You know, I can't find it, I'll make a good guess. I can't do that. It's not in my nature to not be exactly right. I've spent 3 hours before looking and scouring for a font to make sure it's the correct font for that brand. If somebody comes to us with, this is my brand pack, these are the vectors, these are the fonts, these are the colours, why my life so much easier?
Yeah.
And anything for an easy life, but it's you just lose that consistency when you go through it. Now, if you're a startup, the budget might not be there, you can't get all of that packaging, that's fine, but you're then tied into the designer that created your logo.
Yeah.
Because if you then start to go to 5 other people and they've got to fight for it, they just won't bother. If you can do a brand or a rebrand and invest in it properly. Get your logo, get your iconography, get your fonts, get your colours, but more than that, get the tone, get the how your logo is meant to use. How should your social media graphics be represented on anything you do? What tone are you looking for? And get the full package in there. It's well worth the investment because you're going to have that consistency from day one.
Yeah, back quite a few years now, I was doing some work for Shell Global. So, large company doing training manuals which went round the world, which was great fun. But when you're handed, this is the full brand pack, this is how we want it to look, it just takes out the guesswork and you just carry on and design the brochure, the book. It makes life easier, and it will save you money down the road, because your designer then won't charge you for starting from scratch. They're just taking your details and going, oh, that's much easier. I can just work with that.
So having those brand guidelines could actually save you money in the
100%.
medium to long term, to be honest.
100%.
So not only could it be more beneficial for you from a marketing perspective, because everything's more consistent, more effective, more impactful, when it comes to you wanting to create something new, if you have those brand guidelines readily available, it saves hours, potentially more than that.
Yeah, you could say... the amount of time it would have taken me to work out Shell's branding without that's a really in-depth system. If I had to do that from scratch, it would have taken me a month before I could even start the work, let alone do the work.
So we were talking about marketing quite a bit, building from the branding side of things. I'd like you to talk to me about Maslow.
Okay.
So this was an idea that you first spoke about Maslow, if I remember rightly.
I think it's I don't want to say I take all the credit for the coming up with the idea in itself.
Would you like to just kind of explain the premise behind it and what it is?
I think what kind of happened is we ended up kind of crossing over a little bit with you guys, and then we know somebody else that would be really good. Oh, Tim's a really good copywriter, for example. And then it's like, well, actually, there's an element here where, do you know what? I've got full respect for full stack marketing agencies, but that's a lot of pressure with so many staff, so much PAYE, so much everything involved in doing it. And I think, we've talked about branding and consistency being the key thing. The Maslow concept in itself comes from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, based around basically everything that falls within the human psyche. So your foundations, your social requirements, your credibility and needs, your security, right through to being just generally happy with where you are in life and being actualized. And it kind of occurred to me that this is marketing in a really easy way to explain it. If you don't have your foundations in place, everything's going to fall over. Now, for me, for us, the foundations are primarily branding, website, and strategy.
Yeah.
And if you're missing one of those three things, something's going to go wrong somewhere along the line. And then, so we can take that. We can say there's your first tier. And then you take into the second one, which kind of is those safety and security needs of, when you've got your foundations of your house and you put your walls up and you're kind of inside, brilliant, but you don't have windows and you don't have a lock. So you're cold and you're not secure. So you want to make sure that that's in place next, and that's bringing in kind of reputation, credibility elements, and so on and so forth through the triangle, if you like, all the way up to that point. The idea is everything builds on top of everything else.
Right.
So it's a really easy way to kind of explain to businesses who don't know marketing what marketing is. And I hear this all the time: is I don't need marketing. Yeah, you do, because otherwise you're lucky. So, if you don't need marketing, you've just got either a really good product, or you're really, really lucky, or a bit of both. So it was a way to explain it to clients, firstly. But also there's the other side of Abraham Maslow's concept of Maslow's hammer, which is if you treat every problem... Oh no, what was it? I've got to remember it now.
If every problem's a nail, you...
No, if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, you'll treat every problem like a nail.
Yeah.
And it's, well, actually, do you know what? Not every problem's the same. Everybody needs a different specialist at a different time. Everybody kind of needs somewhere to go for it. Now, the simple answer is, as much as I'd love to be able to reach the heights of being a full agency myself, I can't afford it. I'm never going to be able to afford the NI, the wages, that kind of extra pressure. It's not for me. But actually, what if I could do kind of what we do anyway, work with a bunch of really trusted specialists in their field. So rather than me having to either hire them permanent on like a full-time basis, or have to learn far too much for my tiny mind to work out, why can't I actually think, well, if we can get one core strategy with one great brand with a solid website in there, and everything else can be brought in from other freelancers and specialists and people who are just damn good at what they do.
And that's, you've kicked on the point, is that they are specialists. They know their job. Their industry is to do what they are freelancing doing. So just the same as what we do in-house. I'm the graphic designer. I've got my history in design, so I do primarily the bulk of the design work. Ross has learned a hell of a lot, but design is my area. I don't dream of thinking I can build websites, but this man can build anything I just throw it in so far.
He keeps trying.
Yeah.
He keeps trying to find something again. It's getting closer.
And that goes along with everything else. Videography, there's bringing in, I can point a camera. That doesn't mean I can make a video. And there's so much of that out there that actually, with doing what we're doing with Maslow, is we are bringing in the specialists who are the best in their field.
Yeah.
And that's all they do. Their life is doing that job. So it's a much better way for clients to get it.
And I think you've got a couple. I mean, the main target client, if you like, is somebody who probably has got a marketing team or a marketing executive, but that one person can't do everything.
Yeah.
We've talked about the jack of all trades concept. They can't do everything. They can't afford to hire a second, or the company can't or doesn't want to. Actually, there's much more efficient ways around doing it. That if everyone's got to be singing from the same hymn sheet, if we have one strategist and all of these specialists that are working to that one strategy, everything's going to sing. And that's where we kind of come in with the amplify your voice point from Twisted, is that we want to talk, we want the client to tell their own story. Everybody's business is best sold by themselves. It's been firstly proven, but secondly it just shows where the successes are at the moment with self-filmed social short videos. And we know one of the guys in question who's recently decided to take to it, and all of a sudden impressions are going through the roof, and people are saying, "Oh, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did that." Because social short-form video is so important, but it's by getting yourself out there that's important. The simple truth is, if you're a plumber, you're probably really, really good at plumbing. You might not be so good at actually telling people you're good at plumbing. That's where we come into it. That's what marketers do. That's the point. So if we can say, right, you be good at what you're doing, we are going to give you the direction, the framework, and the ability to amplify what you're talking about. And I think that's the side of it. Again, example, meeting with a client the other day. You know what? At the moment, the copy on your website's pretty poor, right? AI can do a reasonable job. I can probably do a slightly better job than AI because I think I'm pretty good at writing stuff. But I'll tell you what, there's this guy from a company called Selling Service called Tim Martin, who's the best copywriter I've ever worked with. You need to hire him.
I'll get the drinks in a minute.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. And that's one example, and it's only because I'm looking at it. You know? And that's it. If we can turn around, and I think there's an element of that in trust. You know, I won't recommend somebody I don't trust and I haven't worked with. And I'd say, yes, you're the other one sat in front of me, but video is the thing for me, yes. Hopefully some people have seen, I'm doing an awful lot with video myself at the moment. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to be able to do short form, to do interviews myself, to do podcasts, and such. I wouldn't know where to start if it wasn't for your help, because it's what you do. So why would I try and pretend to be you? I'd rather get the experience from you that's learnt it. And that goes for anybody in the room with it, you know. There's only so much that we can specialise in ourselves. So let's just grow it together. And I think this concept should work really, really well for the right client, without a doubt. And it's borderline a philosophy, because it's kind of how we work with our own anyway, because even our smaller clients, it's how we're trying to work with it. And I'm really looking forward to BizFest next week to really get it launched off the ground and see how it goes, basically.
So that will tie into something in just a moment, but I think we've covered like absolutely fantastic load of stuff, like seeing how like practicality and technical side of things meets up with the aesthetic and creative side of things, how you guys came working together and how you complement each other, how that's now expanded into a larger thing beyond just simple branding to branding within a larger marketing sphere, to incorporating a large amount of collaboration, dare I say it, with other people in order to really build something incredible.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, very excited for everything there. So we're going to round off here with you guys, although you've provided a lot of really good information here actually already, so if you got one more, maybe even from each of you, what is one immediately actionable tip that you can give our audience, the businesses out there, the entrepreneurs, the startups and the established companies? what's one tip that you could give that they could use to supercharge their branding, their marketing, their media, their business?
For me, it's consistency. Don't ever forget the consistency. If you've got a font, make sure you remember it. Make sure you got it downloaded. Make sure you use it on everything you're doing. If you've got a colour, use it. Don't water it down, because it will help. It will save you for a fortune in the future.
Excellent.
And for me, it's a buzzword from an earlier episode of my podcast, which is keep your reels real. Yeah. And to explain that is a case of, the world is full of AI at the moment, and AI-generated content and AI-generated images, and the search engines, the AIs themselves, and the social media especially, they're downplaying it. Be real with what you're talking about, whether it's you're talking about your business or talking about yourself. If you can give some value, that's some real content, people will start to build trust in you before they even need you. And it's a case of, position yourself as the expert by give away some of the information if you need to. But if you can show what can be done, you should be able to position yourself as the company of choice beforehand. I think one of the things we've said recently, isn't it, is by all means give people the keys to the castle, but keep the vacuum unplugged. So when it gets dirty, they need you out. Because that's why we're going to grow. We're obviously here in business for a reason, so we still need to be a part of it, but give people a little bit, get them involved, get the clients involved in the process, and just push them in the right direction.
Brilliant. I told a bit of a lie earlier. I said no pitching. The only people who are allowed to pitch are the fireside guests. So,
and you're the pitch expert.
And Marketing Megaphone, Ross Gudge over here. You are allowed to give one 60-second pitch. The floor is yours.
I mean, I kind of feel like we've half done it anyway, because we've talked about most of what we kind of what we do and how we approach things. There is nothing pushy about us at all. From that element of consultancy, we keep saying it. Your brand is your voice, and we want to be able to be in a position where we can point you in the right directions, amplify your voice, and get the right people in front of you when you need them. The day-to-day stuff, the things we handle in-house, I can say quite comfortably, is when design meets development. You will see web designers that can do really, really good websites that look awful, and you'll see some or look like they've been written by an SEO chatbot.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you can see some really nice-looking websites that you think straight away, well, these ain't going to do anything for you. Where's your calls to action? Where's your basic? We will cover both bases and make sure that we're giving you the kind of the strongest footprint, the strongest foundation to push yourselves forward.
Yep.
That's pretty much all I got.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ross and John have Twisted.
Thank you.
I'm an AI consultant. Hated among everyone by the sounds of it. No, it's tough. How do you guys? I mean, to be honest with you, things are kind of like that at the moment. You can see things are obviously AI created, but in the future, how do you guys see that as part of business? Because no matter how we look at it or how much we put our heads in, that's where it's heading. Otherwise, I won't be doing what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's a huge market emerging. Firstly, for AI in itself in usage. I think the thing for me is it goes back to an old phrase of garbage in, garbage out. And if you give a prompt to an AI that is, can you add a marquee banner to my website, you are going to get crap, because there's no context in framework, in platform, in language, in any of it. If you're using it correctly, you're going to get better results without a doubt. But it's still got to tell your story. So if I said that I didn't use it, I'd be lying. I use AI tools of various things for different purposes.
We're using it slightly different for design. Whereas before we'd send people away with, if I was doing a brand new logo for somebody, I would ask them to send me logos they like, logos they don't like, colours they don't want, colours they like, so I can try and get into their head, understand the industry, and then work from there. Now I'm asking them, put it into an AI system, come back to me then with something that you think is the type of thing you would like. Now that helps me work out what's in their head, and then I can narrow down actually how to do something and give them something proper with proper fonts, proper colours, etc. afterwards, and it helps get to the end result quicker and easier. So as a tool, AI has become very useful. Anybody who says it isn't aren't using it correctly, but it's also at this point is just nowhere. We were talking about it on the way here. Is that there's few people we've noticed have now gone over to social media. 90% of their posts are all generated through it, and it's only going to hurt their brand because they're not using it in the correct way, and it just doesn't work. So, and the keeping it real, people will start to get tired of it very quickly. The silly comic, I've turned myself into a comic, is a bit of fun for one post, but when you're doing it every post you do, people start getting bored very quickly.
Yeah, thank you. No, I agree. But I think the unfortunately, because of just with what is known about AI, which is very limited.
Yeah.
People don't, like you said, know how to use it properly. Everyone just refers to ChatGPT, but that is not what a tool is. That's a chatbot, basically, a very smart one. But that's kind of what you're getting. I mean, it can do more, but I think it's just a knowledge level about how to actually use these tools. It's like anything. Like you said, you didn't even use a computer. You was all hand drawing with charcoal, stencils, paint, whatever, oils. It's kind of like, and then the natural thing was now it's digital, and then the next thing is actually going to be AI, because AI just the leaps and bounds the way it grows. But unfortunately, that's what even working even with Adam and his team, just kind of trying to get how we can use it in practice, because at the moment I think it's all theory and just horrible, spoiled, rotten stuff that is output by maybe someone not knowing how to use the tools, like you said. So.
100%.
And I think just to extend onto that one, it's more of a business development thing rather than a marketing thing, I suppose. But I would say in my early retail days when self-checkouts in supermarkets were coming in, I was in one of the trial stores. Our store had 6 checkouts and 2 kiosk points, so we had 8 potential people, and they got rid of a checkout and put in 4 self-checkouts, and oh my, the kickback of AI systems, automated systems, replacing all of our jobs, we're not going to have anything to do anymore, and that is actually what happens. We had 5 checkouts, 4 self-checkouts and 2 kiosks, so we ended up gaining 3 tills and had exactly the same amount of staff. And people were were happier, because some people want to have a chat in a supermarket. Some people, like me, I've got a lunch break, for example. I want to go in, get myself and get out. I don't want to have a conversation because I'm meeting in precious time. So you're actually helping more people get a better service out of what you're looking at. You're increasing the throughput you can do. You're becoming more efficient. If we can use AI to improve efficiency, perfect. If we're going to use AI to be lazy, not at all. And I think that's what the social media side of it and the algorithms are catching up on, is lazy use of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is nothing but infographics,
and M dashes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
No.
Anybody else? I don't think any anonymous questions have been posted, as far as I can see. But does anybody else have any other questions for John whilst they are here? Anyone at all? Just feedback. Oh, there we go. There we go. So just saying very good, which is a wonderful thing to hear. So thank you very much. All right. In that case, I think we've gone through everything. In that case, once again, please just a quick round of applause for Ross and John. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant.